So to ease into Marcintosh, we're going to talk about a machine that has had quite the journey. So this is a DLSD PowerBook G4, the DLSD standing for Dual Layer Super Drive, which describes the optical drive here, but that's not the whole story with this machine. This is one of the last PowerBooks you could buy with a PowerPC processor in it before everything swapped over to Intel, so it's one of the ultimate G4 PowerBooks. I believe you could go a little bit better if you wanted like a 17-inch model, but that's a little too big for my liking, so 15 inches is perfectly adequate. So this machine had a journey, and in fact, this is the latest in my PowerBook G4 journey because I've had two previous PowerBooks to this. I had a 1.5 gigahertz 2003 model, which was then replaced by a 1.67 non-DLSD model, and now this has come back to me, and now this is my main PowerBook G4. Now, I say come back to me because unfortunately, when I got this, it was DOA. I got this as part of a couple of other machines, and this one had unfortunately suffered a failed GPU. Thankfully, DOS-Dude1 stepped in and said, hey, just send it over to me, I'll take care of it, and that he did, and it came back to me, and it's been pretty much a awesome little machine. So I did take it apart to make some upgrades, and specifically, I transferred the SSD over from my previous G4 into this machine. So we're going to go ahead and give it the tour first and then power it up and we'll run a game on it. So from the side here, we've got our standard card of ports from back then. We have Kensington lock, USB 2.0, I believe, Firewire 400 and 800, which makes this a pretty good little bridge machine for Firewire devices. Gigabit Ethernet, very nice. S-Video out, which very nice because I can use this as an S-Video source for like older things. DVI out, which full DVI out's pretty cool. Around the bottom, we have our battery, which is still good, and we have our RAM access door. And then on the other side, we have our PC card slot, audio input and output, another USB 2.0 port, and a modem, kind of fun. And then our barrel jack for the power input. Because this was before MagSafe happened, and so you could trip on this thing and completely kill your DC in jack. It was not a good time, and I've had that happen on a couple of older machines with similar jacks. Not a good time. So, in addition to the upgrades and repairs that DOS-Dude1 made, I had to make one of my own, and that was with the latch. Because, as we can see here, it does work. Just a little bit of pressure and it opens right up. These latches are held in only with adhesive, and over time, and I guess somebody may have pushed it in a little hard, that adhesive weakened and the whole latch got pushed into the machine. So figured out that it was just held in with adhesive. I got some Gorilla Glue, very carefully got it around the perimeter of the cutout here, held it in with a clamp, and I'm pleased to report that it seems to be holding up perfectly fine. Now I said I was against shimming, but I still put in a little bit of a shim behind where the hard drive sits because that way it's not completely load bearing on the adhesive. There's a little bit of help behind it, but unless you take the machine apart, you're not going to know that's there. So opening up the machine, pretty standard. We have a smaller trackpad compared to the MacBook Pros that came out right after this. This keyboard, which I really like. I really love these late G4, early MacBook keyboards. There's just something to them. They feel really good to type on. People like to go on about ThinkPad keyboards. Now, for me, this is prime keyboard. I miss those days. Anyway, then we have the other part of the DLSD story. If we go up just a little bit here, and that is the display. This display is, I believe, pretty close, if not exactly on 1440 by 900. This set the standard for the MacBook Pro, which would be 1400 by 900 or 1440 by 900. I can't remember off the top of my head the exact resolution, but I'm close enough, you get the point. Because I believe previously the screens on here were closer to, I believe, 1180 something by, it was some oddball resolution that wasn't quite 720p, but it was kind of close. So these were a lot more dense and they looked very, very good. Along with it came a slightly better graphics system here because this is using I believe a Mobility Radeon 9700, but with 128 megabytes of RAM standard. Because I have the non-DLSD 1.67 gigahertz model, that only came with 64 megabytes of VRAM. This one comes with 128, so you got a little bit more VRAM to go with the resolution bump. So that all said, let's go ahead and give this thing a power on. So while the battery does work for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to plug in the power. Unfortunately, this machine is kind of no longer going to be worthy of the DLSD nickname, just solely because the optical drive no longer actually works. I tried to burn a DVD with it, and it just decided to leave the chat entirely. So, quite unfortunate. You can hear it's trying to work, but unfortunately it's pretty dead, as we'll see in a moment here. So this is the setup we have. Unfortunately, I need to get a serial number for Stat2. I'm running Stat2 because that is what I ran on my MacBook Pro back in the day, and it's kind of a nostalgia trip for me. Maybe I need to reach out to Panic one of these days and be like, hey, would you mind publishing a serial for this software since it's pretty much abandoned at this point? But if we go to About This Mac, we can see another hallmark of the DLSD name, DDR2. Previous PowerBooks only used DDR, so this has faster RAM. And unfortunately, it is not universally compatible with all DDR2 because, well, I have this stick of DDR2 right here. It is 6400S, and sadly, it does not work in this machine. So you need to use, I believe, 5000 series. I can't remember the specific number, but 6400S does not work on this machine, which is quite unfortunate because that's all I seem to have on hand. So right now it has only 1 gig of RAM, which I mean, for the time, was plenty. So we go to more info. There's our 1.67 gigahertz processor. If we go to ATA, you can see the optical drive has completely left the chat. But we do have our SSD right there. Go down to disk burning, nothing. It's gone. So, yeah, go down to graphics and displays. There's our Mobility Radeon 9700 with 128 megabytes of VRAM. And yeah, this is slightly higher res than the MacBook Pro. It's 1440 by 960, which the MacBook Pros that came after this were 1400 by 900. So, cool. There's not really much else to talk about in here, so let's go ahead and quit out. We're just going to skip straight to a kind of beefy game that I've already got installed here, but and before anybody comes in trying to White Knight Epic or anything, I do own a legit copy of 2004 on Steam before they went and decided to be dicks and pull it, but that's another topic entirely, but I do legit own the game. Let's run 2004 and see what happens. Now, this is the first time I'm running this, so we'll see what happens. Alright, so what do we got for defaults? We probably have 800 by 600. Yeah, we do. OpenGL. Remember when Apple supported that? Everything is normal, high. So we're going to just leave this as is. I am going to just skip straight to violence here. One of the rougher maps I've used in benchmarking, at least on the 98 build, which is getting a video at some point when I can remember to do it, is a kind of open map, in this case, Torlon, one of the ones I used to play way back in the day. So we are going to turn on bots because, as Duke says, no time to play with yourself. Anyway, so I'm just going to leave it at that, and we'll play with defaults. And we're loaded in. And it's running a bit crunchy, but let's see. Does this work? Okay, sweet. So we have an FPS counter. It's running about 30-ish. But keep in mind, this is with default settings. We can certainly eke out way more performance. Okay, so let's go ahead and... So we turn off trilinear filtering and maybe dynamic lighting. That can eke out a little more performance. And we're still in high 20s. So I'm just going to reload the game to make sure that these settings actually stuck. But for right out the gate, this is actually not bad, especially for a PowerBook G4. But as you can see, in more closed areas, 30 FPS is perfectly playable. This is better than any system I would have had, like, back in 2004, so I'm shocked that the trackpad is still actually working here. So I think on my MacBook Pro at the time, if you use the keyboard, it would actually lock out the trackpad for a minute. I could be misremembering, though. It's a bit yikes, but I mean, it's also, yeah, we're dipping down into the 10s. Oof. You know what's shocking is the Windows 98 build actually kind of runs this better. That's but the 98 build also has a 6600 GT in it, which I think is a better video card. So let's dial things down just a little bit. Detail textures is off. Turn down fog distance. Roll detail, we can just knock back down the normal. Let's see what happens now. This is also not updated, so maybe updates might make it better. So, I'm going to go ahead and quit out, and we're going to patch the game and see if that improves things at all. I've also moved you guys off to the side a little bit because I want to be able to actually interact with the machine without having to reach around the camera. So let's see what happens. I will give it this. At least it's more stable than the 98 machine because, oh, the 98 machine is, it's like a dice roll if I'm going to crash the whole system or not. So, go to settings. All the settings are still the same. I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but it's looking a little bit better. So maybe that did do something, but we'll see. It's still kind of the same. But I would consider this, you know, per my standards at the time, I would consider this perfectly playable. Like, this is not ideal, but it's playable. I grabbed no weapons because I am a dingus. But it's okay, I'm not playing this game seriously at all. Yeah, it's a little rough. Trying to play on a trackpad is not the business. I can't hit anything. But yeah, that's Unreal Tournament 2004. I would try to run UT99 on here, but that's an OS 9 application, and it's kind of a toss-up on whether it wants to run fine or not. I'm sure there's an OS 10 patch out there somewhere, but I don't have it on this machine just yet. But yeah, that's the G4, and just for giggles, go ahead and close the machine. And it's really not that hot either. Managed that and still runs pretty decently cool, which is quite nice. Back to up here. And I know this machine has been repasted because DOS Dude 1 had to work on it. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a neat little machine. I'm not going to obviously be running Unreal Tournament 2004 on here, but 04 also runs just fine on modern systems, so it's like if I really want to play 04, I just boot it up on my main PC. But yeah, that's it for this machine, and hopefully you enjoyed the little video I've done on it. Until next time, I'll see you later, and happy beginning of Marchintosh. Well,